explorers. It's your adventure podcast hostess with the mostest, Katie Staples. I'm going to share my travel stories, tips, and tricks for exploring and creating unforgettable experiences and memories. Find me on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast so you can follow along and I can hear from you. I love a good road trip and have taken a bunch from just a few days long to 2 months long. So I thought I'd share how I plan and map out my road trips. Whether you're an experienced nomad, would like to just get out more, or have one coming up you'd like some last minute tips for, this is the episode for you. My road trips have been anywhere from a weekend to all summer, and no matter how far or long or where you're going, there's a few key things to plan or keep in mind. First, let's go over some pre-trip planning essentials, like choosing the perfect destination and route. I'm assuming you already have a destination in mind. Just make sure that you're keeping in mind the busy season, weather, and other things that might happen during that time of year. So, you have your starting point and you have an end point and probably a few different routes that you can take. Things to consider when choosing which of these routes is best would be the length, obviously, along with potential traffic, weather disruptions, and if you're looking to stop anywhere else along the way. For example, to get from my house in Atlanta to my family outside of DC, I usually go up 85 through Greenville, Charlotte, and Greensboro. However, depending on the time of day, I might choose to avoid those cities' traffic and instead take I-20 to 95 or pass Richmond's traffic and go through the mountains in Virginia. When I took about a week to get from Atlanta to Missoula, Montana in 2023, I could have taken the shortest route by going through Kansas City and across South Dakota. However, I know I wanted to stop in Wichita, Kansas to teach a class, so I went instead through Colorado and not South Dakota. Most of the time, I use my Apple Maps app on my phone. I know a lot of people who swear by Waze for better traffic updates. I also used, and please don't judge my 1990s throwback here, MapQuest to plan a lot of my route out ahead of time. It lets you put up to 26 stops into the route planner feature. There, I can play with the order, and there's something about mapping it out on a computer screen instead of a tiny phone screen that just does it for me. Another app I strongly recommend is Gas Buddy. On a road trip, I'm usually driving my RV, which gets a whopping 7 miles to the gallon, so getting the best price gas is crucial, especially for my long trips. The Gas Buddy map will show you prices verified by station owners and customers, so you can decide if you'd like to take the next exit or go on to the next town. It was really helpful when I started crossing between states, since some have some pretty drastic changes in prices between the two. Now, I also recommend setting a budget ahead of time. Keep in mind, this doesn't just include gas and accommodations. I would factor in food, activities, and emergencies as well. For example, one time I blew a tire crossing the Continental Divide in Colorado and fortunately was prepared for the $600 to change both dually tires in the back of the RV. Then, of course, make your packing checklist. This should include your clothes, snacks, and I'm very passionate on this topic. We'll talk more about that later. Vehicle emergency supplies, personal items, and entertainment. I love to use the Notes app in my phone for this. I basically create one packing list that fits most of the trips, and once something is packed, I put a little green checkmark emoji next to it. Then after the trip, I can erase all of those emojis and start again for the next trip with my list. Now, once you have your general route decided, you can get specific on what attractions you'll stop at. Major tourist attractions are fun and all, yet I really like to discover hidden gems and quirky spots. TripAdvisor and a quick Google search of what's to do in an area are really helpful. That's how I found quirky museums and roadside stops. When I'm not necessarily going through cities that I can search attractions for, sometimes I'll put the route in Apple Maps and literally zoom way in and scroll the route to see if anything cool pops up that I may not have otherwise known about. For example, I was doing that for a long road trip through New Mexico where there were hours of driving through small towns or open land, and I came across a place called Pie Town. And just off the main road, Route 60, was a bakery called Pioneer Homestead. It's a super quaint small town restaurant and bakery that has some of the best pies I've ever had. Their key lime is wonderful, and their pie of the day that had a Hawaiian flair with like coconut and whipped cream and pineapple, it was amazing. Now, let's talk about road trip logistics. There's a chance that you're doing a trip that involves overnight stops. Depending on what vehicle you have, you may need a hotel or an Airbnb as opposed to like a campground. If you're like me and often take an RV, look into Harvest Hosts and Boondockers Welcome for free and inexpensive overnight stays in your rig. I also love state campgrounds and KOAs for quick stops or a few days. A lot of times I plan where I'm staying overnight based on what attraction I'm seeing that day or the next. I've learned my lesson when it comes to not planning that out as well and then staying in the middle of nowhere at a campground I found online. I haven't always been pleased with what I've shown up to based on what it advertised online. Now, you may be driving a long distance to one destination and not necessarily stopping at other things like I do. Either way, it's important to consider how long you'll drive each day. Some people, like my dad, just like to plow through, and he doesn't mind doing 8 to 12 hours in one day just to get the drive over with. Other people choose to cap themselves at 3 to 4 hours a day. That's really up to your preference, and just consider what's safe for you. If you're the road warrior pushing through an all-day drive, please get out to stretch, check tires, and get a meal or snack every few hours. Let's talk safety. When I'm on the trip, I share my location with a few people, partially for their peace of mind, and just in case something happens where I need to be located. My family also knows where I'm starting and stopping each day. You should carry enough emergency supplies with you, like road flares, a flashlight, etc. Depending on how remote you'll be, you may want to know at least how to change a tire. For more safety tips on traveling alone, check out episode 15. One of my favorite parts of road trips are the snacks. I've powered through long drives plenty of times, only stopping for gas and to use the restroom. Usually I'd stop at a gas station closest to Wendy's or a Chick-fil-A so I can gas up, pee, and grab food all at once. If you're looking for healthier ideas for your road trip snacks, I recommend making yourself a little snackle box. I have a bento box where I put cheese cubes, pretzels, apple slices, and Oreos. Or throw in some trail mix, a banana, a PB&J you made the night before, whatever. Make sure you have plenty of water or whatever your go-to bevy is. And when you can, I highly recommend you stop at local restaurants to get a better feel for the area you're traveling through. You never know what cool places you'll pop into. A lot of people ask me what I do when I'm driving cross country by myself. First, there's a lot of voices up here that keep me occupied. Just kidding. Kind of. Sometimes I have my headphones in and I'll talk to friends or make some work calls. Other times I listen to podcasts on traveling or growing a business. Sometimes I rock out to my playlist or whatever's on the local stations. I definitely recommend looking into some good podcasts or audiobooks to keep you entertained and awake. If you're traveling with other people, you might want to play some games. I'm sure you guys know the alphabet game where you find a word on a sign that starts with A, then a word that starts with B, yada, yada. Or see how many states you can see on license plates. You also got Would You Rather or 20 questions. Sometimes I just like the quiet game. Now, my dogs come on almost every road trip with me. They're pretty easy to take care of because they mostly just nap. I make sure to stop every few hours and let them out each time and give them water and a snack or a meal. If we're driving longer than a few hours, I find a dog park along the route to stop at. Even giving them 15 minutes to run really helps them nap the whole drive. And they appreciate staying at campgrounds with a dog park or taking them for a long walk before we leave and after we arrive each night. For more tips on traveling with pets, check out episode 5. Now, I don't travel with kiddos. Bless all you parents out there. I'm not sure how you do it. What I can recommend that works well with my niece and my nephew is to give them their snackle boxes and something to entertain them. My sister and brother-in-law aren't big on screens, so instead of a tablet, their kids have Tonys where they can listen to different stories. Now, maybe a tablet and a movie work best for your kid. Let them join in on the car games or jam out to some Disney songs. Whether you have pets or tiny humans, keep in mind they need to get their energy out, whatever level of energy that might be. So plan some stops and activities so everyone stays in good spirits. That's all for my tips on planning and mapping out a road trip. What's been your favorite road trip and what tips do you have? I would love to hear from you. Find me on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and send me a message. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can follow along and dream big for your journeys on the Great Escape. See you next time, adventurers.